Morning.
Good morning.
Unless if you are a man, you might know what that was. That was we've set up this to look like Sports Center. Is this on?
Yeah.
It's got to be closer.
Or got to be closer.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, you're there.
And so what we've done is we've set up this to look like Sports Center, and so we welcome you to Grace Center here this morning. And
Very
we
cool.
we wanted to.
Come on. That's kind of cool.
And so, I guess I grew up in a time and an age when on Father's Day, it was one of those, you got to be godly men and all that kind of stuff, and which is true, which is very true. But, and so we wondered why men didn't want to come to church on Father's Day. Maybe because they got a good scolding. But we wanted to kind of give you a illustration or some direction of how to have a good pattern for fatherhood and God's pattern for fatherhood. It is. I understand that in a crowd this size, that there probably most likely is individuals that are here today that did not have a good example for a father. And we want you to leave here today knowing what God's pattern for fatherhood is. And so we welcome you to GPCN this morning, and we hope that you have a great time here today.
Hey, we're coming to you live this morning here from Gracepointe Church of the Nazarene here in Erlanger, Kentucky. My name is Larry Dillon. I'd like to welcome you to GPCN, Grace Center. We have a special edition today of GPCN Today, and it's called God's Pattern for Fatherhood. What is God's pattern for fatherhood? Well, by the end of the day, we hope you'll notice a pattern developing. And it's going to be an exciting program. Hope you'll stay tuned in. Hope you'll stay focused and learn a lot about what God has called for us. Back to you, Scott.
It was Molly, age 7. It was her job to pack the lunches for their family. She would put in the sandwiches, cookies, fruit, and so on in a paper bag. One day, in addition to the paper bag she usually packed for her father, she gave him a second bag. Enclosed by duct tape, staples, and paper clips, the dad, in a hurry to get to work, didn't have time to ask what was inside. Quickly, he thanked her and gave her a kiss and took both bags with him to work. At lunchtime, as he was eating his lunch, he remembered his daughter's gift and brought it out, since it proved too difficult to open any other way. He tore it open on the side and spilled out these objects: 2 hair ribbons, 3 small stones, 1 plastic dinosaur, a pencil stub, a tiny seashell, and 2 animal crackers, a marble, a used lipstick, a small doll, 2 chocolate kisses, and 13 pennies. Unsure of what she meant by this gift, he smiled to himself and thought, how quaint. Then realizing the lateness of the hour, he hurriedly swept his desk clean, including the gifts, and put them in the wastebasket. That's a bad dad right there. Yeah. He did this, he noted later, because there was nothing in there that I needed. That night, as he sat in his easy chair, his daughter approached him and asked, where is my bag? Your bag? He asked uneasily. Yes, my bag of treasures I gave you this morning. I thought you might like to play with them. Oh, that bag. Well, it's still at the office. I want it back, she said. Those things are very important to me in my life. And of course, honey, I'll get it for you tomorrow. Oh, and Daddy, there's something I forgot to put in your bag. And she handed him a note. Unfolding the paper, he read, Daddy, I love you. Slipping out to his car, he drove hurriedly to his office and frantically checked his wastebasket and found to his relief that it had not been emptied yet. Quickly, he dumped its contents onto his desk and sorted through them for the treasures Just then the janitor came in and asked, "Did you lose something?" "Yes," he said. I think I've lost my mind." The next day at home, he asked his daughter to explain the meaning of the items in the bag, and patiently listened as she explained each of them in detail, how they each meant something special to her, a special event, or something that he himself had given to her. Paul, in his writing to the Thessalonian church, notes the congregation in Thessalonica was renowned for its powerful witness and its reputation as a strong church. Part of the reason for their reputation, he said, is revealed in Thessalonians 2:10 through 12. Paul, Silas, and Timothy had exemplified for the Thessalonians what a father ought to be. The church whose men are strong father figures, not just in their own families. That church can be a mighty force for God. One of the things that I do like about Gracepointe, one of the things that I have always liked about Covington First and then ultimately Gracepointe, is that I believe that we have some good, strong father figures that are here. Oh, you might have children that have gone astray, or you may have people in your life that have left, but for the most part, I think that there have been good, strong fathers that have been here at Gracepointe community and at Cov First when that was there. And I believe that God is calling us to go even to a deeper level, that we be men of God, that we always be a man of God. I remember a few years ago when I asked my friend Tim Gaucher about an individual who is now a general superintendent. I said to him, "What is with this guy?" I said, what, I don't understand why everybody's so nuts about this guy. I had heard him speak. It didn't sound that great to me. I had experienced some time with him. I wasn't that impressed. And he then quickly told me afterwards, he said, "They say that on his tombstone will be written, 'Here lies a man of God.'" I think that's the greatest thing that ever could be said, that here lies a man of God. I want to go through this just real quickly. First of all, God considers the role of father so significant, he built his church around it. In Romans, it says, "For if you live according to the sinful nature, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live, because those who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive a spirit that makes you a slave again to fear, but you received the spirit of sonship. And by him we cry, Abba, Father." The Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children. Now, if we are God's children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we share in his sufferings, in order that we may also share in his glory. They say that word Abba is a very endearing term. I've mentioned it before. But it would be very, very similar to the words daddy. I remember when my girls were little growing up, and truth is that one's 31 and she's still growing up. She realizes that she can get just about anything she wants. And so can all the rest, if they just do one thing. And their mom coaches them very well in regards to this. She'll say, "I'll tell you what you do. You just wait until he's sitting on the chair, and you go up and sit in his lap. You bat your eyes at him and those big browns, and you look at him and you say, 'I love you, Daddy,' and he'll give you anything you want." And you know what? That's exactly true. I want to tell you, my wife and I were at the Reds game yesterday. They got beat. It didn't matter. I was with my wife. My children are all out of town. I was thinking that maybe my wife pulled it off to where maybe Ben and Hannah could come down. But she wasn't that nice and didn't do that. Come on. I thought she would surprise me. So she surprised me with the next best thing. I got to thinking, because I didn't want to sit out in the Reds dugout, or I didn't want to sit out in the Reds game yesterday in 95-degree heat. And so she did something for me that was amazing. And she, what she did was she bought us the tickets that where you sit, and all you do is, it's a pig fest, really. And you sit in those boxes, and you can sit inside, and you can watch the game, or you can go outside, either one. So we got in a whole inning outside, and on the inside, it was nice. She texted our kids, or didn't text them, but he FaceTimed our kids and said, here we are for Father's Day, and I want you to know this is what we're doing for Dad for Father's Day. I said, yeah, I'm getting Father's Day from my wife, but not from my children. Thought I'd lay it on a little heavy to them. But the very first thing, 8:30 this morning, I got a call from Hannah saying, I love you, Daddy. I said, I love you too. Nothing more precious than a girl's or a boy's, a children's, a child's love to their father. I think that's the kind of love we need to have towards our dad.
Amen.
Our spiritual dad.
Right. Yeah.
A man related how he'd always had a very uneasy relationship with God. He always pictured God as a stern, unpleasant figure who was perpetually displeased with him. One day, while shaving, he felt a prompting to visualize what he felt about God. His mind's eye, he saw a majestic man seated on an imposing throne, robed in white, in a stern look in his eyes, as if in a dream, a scene unfolded before him. As he watched in wonder, the seated figure rose from his throne and came down to him and wrapped his arms around him and held him close. That one vision changed his entire prayer life and helped him to realize how much God really loved him as a father.
All right, just a recap here. God built his church around fathers, and I like this illustration here, strong illustration coming out of University of Michigan, I believe. Very good illustration here. Makes me think of something here in sports. Let me just draw this up here for you here. If you see here, this is football, okay? This is football. This is your offensive line. This is your defensive line, okay? The man in the illustration thinks this is God, okay? He's the running back. This is God. They're trying to just kill him. They're trying to take him out and murder him. But really, God is your offensive line here, trying to open it up so that you can get to the end zone, being heaven. You all with me? You understand what I'm saying here? And I just got word in from our street reporter, Chandler Urey. I think that God considers the image of fathers to be important, that he models leadership after Jimmy. Do you have any more on that?
I've got tons on that, Joey. Thanks. First of all, love the shoes, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. This isn't in the notes, but I have to tell you, last night I was up at 1:30 in the morning working on this message, and I thought, well, I'll try to get some sleep. And so I woke up at 3:30.
I told him not to wait till the last minute.
Well, he's so ate up. Wide awake. My legs were killing me. And had a knot in my stomach. Thinking, man, is this what my pastor goes through every Saturday night? So this morning, first thing I did was walked into his office and I said, dude, what? Really? He's like, yeah, I told you. It's real. So from now on, listen to me, okay? From now on, send him a message. Let him know that you're praying for him. I know I'm going to be more faithful about it. I need a guitar up here to typically do this because I'm not normally one that, and Julie last night was saying, now remember, talk slow because you get excited and start talking fast when you start talking about Jesus. I'm like, okay, I'll try to remember that. Not, no big deal. But seriously, just a side note, it was incredible. Just the thought that this is what he faces on a weekly basis. So next Saturday, hope that you send him a text message telling him you're praying for him, okay? Listen to what some of the people in our world say about leadership. Now, I did a little homework, and so you're going to have to forgive me and some of the people that I use because, I use coaches because, well, this is Grace Center, and yeah. Coach K is one of them. I had to. And I'm not sure I use, yeah, there you go, boo him. That's good. Boo, do Coach K, yeah. This is what Coach K says about leadership. A leader has to be positive about all things that happen to his team. Look at nothing in the past as a failure. I don't know if I agree with that one, but whatever. That's Coach K, and he knows more than I do. Another one by him. A leader may be the most knowledgeable person in the world. I like this. But if the players on his team cannot translate that knowledge into action, it means nothing. That's pretty good. John Quincy Adams says, lead no matter your position. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Dwight D. Eisenhower says this, the supreme quality for a leadership is unquestionably integrity. Without it, no real success is possible, no matter whether it's on a section gang, a football field, in an army, or in an office, or even in a church. Coach Tony Dungy, in his book, Quiet Strength, has 4 characteristics that he uses to define leadership. Encouragement, build relationships, recover from mistakes, and commitment. So, what does the Bible say about leadership? I'm glad you asked. Psalm 78:22 says this, so he shepherded them according to the integrity of his heart and guided them with his skillful hands. Proverbs 11:14, where there's no guidance, the people fall. But in abundance of counselors, there's victory. Now listen to this in chapter 22 of Luke. This beautiful story takes place at the Last Supper as Jesus hits his disciples with this curveball. Like that story, that sports analogy there? Curveball? Yeah, that's good, huh? Thanks. Glad just making sure you're listening. Listen to the encounter as I read this from the Message. Within minutes, they were bickering over who of them would end up the greatest. But Jesus intervened. Kings like to throw their weight around, and people in authority like to give themselves fancy titles. It's not going to be that way with you. Let the senior among you become like the junior. Let the leader act the part of the servant. Who would you rather be? The one who eats the dinner or the one who serves the dinner? You'd rather eat and be served, right? But I've taken my place among you as the one who serves. And you've stuck with me through thick and thin. Now I confer on you the royal authority of my Father conferred on me, so you can eat and drink at my table in my kingdom and be strengthened as you take up responsibilities among the congregations of God's people. 1 Timothy 3:1-5 declares this. Here's a trustworthy saying. If anyone sets his heart on being an overseer, he desires a noble task. Now the overseer must be above reproach, the husband of but one wife. That doesn't even need to be. I've got one wife.
Would you want 2?
No, sir. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I do good with the one that I have. Thank
You
God.
do?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I think she would attest to that. Oh, is she in here?
Yeah.
Okay, there she is. All right. Can't see her. It's probably a good thing. Self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not given to drunkenness, not violent but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own family well and see that his children obey him with proper respect. If anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church? And now, listen to one of the greatest coaches on leadership.
Amen.
Of course, institutions serve people, not the other way around. So as a servant leader, I measure my success by the success of those whom I'm serving. And that, of course, is John Calipari.
Amen.
There you go.
Amen. Preach.
So in order for us to be great as not only fathers, but as leaders, we have to be willing to serve all mankind, bottom line. As far as God is concerned, elders are to be the image of what fathers should be.
Okay, let me recap what he's trying to make the point here. God models his leadership after fathers. It's very important. It's very important that we look to God as our Heavenly Father, and he looks at fathers, and he wants us to be really a role model to our children. God considers this image of father so important that you don't have to be a father to be a father figure. You got a father, and then you got a father figure. Here's a father figure right here. Right here is there's the level we're trying to get to right here. A father
Let's hear
figure.
it for Larry's art.
Yes.
Okay, that's all right. Back to you, Scott.
God considers this image of fathers so important that you don't have to be a father to be a father figure. Some of my greatest images of fathers are not only my own dad, but also people even within this congregation. As you know, that I went through the roughest probably 3 months of my life when I first came here living with Hubert Asher. It was a test of my patience. It was a test of my grit, determination. It was a test of my spiritual life. The guy is a test. The guy is a godly man also.
Yep. Amen.
Amen.
And I learned things from him that he never thought he was teaching. He was a great, great mentor. Great mentors of mine have been people such as Wayne Helton and others that are in this congregation that they weren't my dads, but they were that kind of figure to me. Now, I've since resigned the thought of Wayne Helton being my dad. Seen all of his shortcomings, but I do look to the individuals that have a kind heart such as him and just being a good person. Now, if I ever look to Ray Moore like that, you know I'm in big, big trouble.
That means you lost it.
1 Thessalonians tells us that Timothy, Silas, and Paul were the father figures of a church. I don't know about Timothy or Silas, but we do know Paul had no wife or children. What that means is that you don't have to be married or have children to have influence on other people and on their lives. Really makes no difference if you do or you don't. I believe that all of us influence people in different kinds of ways. I believe that it goes even after your children are out of the household. And so I believe with all of my heart that you can be a father figure even if you're not a father at all. That you can live a godly life in front of individuals without being a father.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Pastor Scott, for that. And so I have another sports analogy here for you. Going to basketball this time here. If you think about
basketball.
basketball. I know you like basketball.
Yeah, I like
professional though. We're not staying in the college
Okay,
ranks.
that's
We're going
all
to the big dogs here, where they actually play ball. And we're going to talk about the Celtics. Any Celtics fans out there?
A little bit, yeah.
Really? Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I forgot. Rick went up there, and well, we don't talk about that much. But okay. So Celtics, right? Does anybody know who their coach is?
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
Brad
Stevens.
Stevens, right? Now tell me, did Brad Stevens ever play basketball?
Don't believe so.
Don't believe he did, actually. So the coach does not always equal
Nice.
the player.
Very
Now,
good. Very good.
in the same way, you don't actually have to be a father to be a father figure.
Very good.
Do you understand? So one day I'll be a father, but I got a whole bunch of kids down there right now. So you don't actually have to have played the game to be a coach. In fact, I think Brad Stevens is a pretty daggone good coach myself. Trade rumor, though, not him. Celtics trading down to third. Going to get a different player and a future pick because, yes, they're amazing. Sorry. Okay, and for our next point here, getting a word in here that if you want to be a father figure, you have to realize that discipline, while being critical, is not your primary responsibility. So, Jimmy, you got any more on that?
Everyone in this room could finish this sentence. Just you wait till your
Father comes home.
Yep. And everyone knew what that meant, except in my house. Growing up as a kid, my mom did the disciplining because my dad didn't want to look like the bad guy. I will say that in my house, that tradition has stopped. My kids know not to poke the bear, or Mama Bear for that matter, because Papa Bear can lay down some pretty good looks when needed and some pretty stern voice inflection when he deems appropriate. But as I'm learning as a dad, there has to be an element of grace in your discipline.
Amen.
And the reason for this is because I'm given discipline grace every moment of my life.
Right.
Some of my most memorable memories as a dad is spending quality time with both my kids. We enjoy playing games and sing-alongs in the car, and the kids really love it when I dance in my car seat while we're listening to Toby or Holland or even a little Justin Timberlake. That music will make you move now. Just can't help it. As good parents, we know our children are a gift from God, a gift that comes with responsibility. Our job is to raise them with righteous standards. Child discipline, then, is not about punishing wrong behavior or as much as it is about setting a course. Proverbs 22:6 says this, "Train a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not turn from it." Laying a good foundation is essential in raising loving, moral, well-disciplined children. It also says in Ephesians, "Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in training and instruction of the Lord." So what's our role as a dad supposed to look like? A couple of things come to mind. They're as follows, but not in any particular order. Your primary role is that of being an example. 1 Thessalonians 2:10 tells us, these evangelists reminded the Christians there how holy, righteous, and blameless we were among you who believed. They intended to leave a good example for the Thessalonians to follow. You know, do as I say, not as I do. Well, stop practicing that. That's not a good example. Your other role is that of an encourager and an urger. Paul wrote in 1 Thessalonians 2:12 that a father's role is that of encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God who calls you into this kingdom and glory. I'm not sure who came up with the statement, feed their passion, but man, please, if you pick up anything from me on this point, when you see that your kids excel in a particular area, and as long as it isn't driving a wedge between them and God, you have to encourage that trait or quality, even if it's not your gig. Because quite frankly, your gig is done. It's not about you anymore. Remember, you're a servant leader. Jenna's in the audience today. And I would hope that if you ask her, what did your dad do for you to help you with who you are today? I would think she would say, he fed my passion and he guided me along the way when I needed guidance. Not overbearing, but just assistance when asked. And with James, if you think for 1 minute he's in a mold of me or his mom, you haven't spent enough time with him. That cat is his own deal, without a filter. But you know what? Rather have him that way than any other way, because I know God Almighty created him just that way. And I believe both of my kids are life changers because they changed mine. If we're going to be good fathers, we have to be encouragers, because Satan is the accuser of the brethren. So we must be encouragers. Closing illustration here. Johnny was perpetually late for the evening meal. He always was waylaid by activities on the way home from school. And his parents finally laid down the law. The next time you're late for dinner, you would receive nothing but bread and water. Sure enough, he arrived late for the evening meal and found, as they promised, the plate of bread and a cup of water in his appointed place. In sadness, he sat and began to chew on the piece of bread. And then the father did something extremely unusual. His dad reached over and took the son's plate and replaced it with his own, full of food. Then the father ate the bread in silence. In that one act, He showed his son what God showed us in his fatherhood. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son for us, though we didn't deserve it.